Hello class, my name is Stephen Parker and this is my presentation on the waning of Pax Americana. If you'll notice, I've included links at the bottom of the screen to all of the pictures that I did include in slides. So let's get started. What is Pax? The word Pax originally derives from the Roman goddess of peace, but today it carries a very different meaning in regards to what it means to the world. Basically what it means to the world nowadays is it represents our economic and political stability, which is being reinforced by military power and military force. So the history of Pax. The idea of these pacts is not exactly new. It's kind of been around for centuries. Just a couple examples that I decided to include were the Pax Romana, which occurred for roughly 2 centuries and was started by Emperor Augustus in 27 BC and then ended with Emperor Marcus Aurelius in 180 AD. And then the other example that I included was Pax Britannica. This one lasted roughly half the time of Pax Romana, but similar to that, it was sponsored by an empire. Leading us now into Pax Americana. Pax Americana has a lot of similarities to Pax Romana in the way that it ensures economic and political stability through the use of military force. Through this, the U.S. would provide security and stability in exchange for peace within the world. This kind of ended up being an advantage with World War II tearing down the world's great powers but keeping the U.S. safe due to our geographical location and advantage. Basically what it allowed us to do was kind of step up and form new allies through the use of our military and kind of helping reinforce the world. So the bipolarity in the Soviet Union and how it kind of played into Pax Americana. From World War II, we're led into this period of bad relations with the Soviet Union, and with that, the relations between the Soviet Union, China, Great Britain, and the U.S. developed a mutual distrust among the four. With this, the U.S. and Great Britain feared the Soviet communist expansion. Following that, the collapse of the Soviet Union then followed due to Russia's imperial outstretch and extending global commitments to the point of it becoming the ultimate downfall. Basically, what that states is kind of Russia overextending its reach to the point of just kind of a self-combustion. So the threat to Pax Americana. Historically speaking, most of the major threats to Pax Americana have kind of included these terrorist attacks, which have occurred more commonly within the last 30 years. The attacks that I decided to kind of include were the 93 attacks on the World Trade Center, the 96 attacks on the U.S. Air Base in Saudi Arabia, the 98 attacks on U.S. embassies, and then the 2000 attack on USS Cole, the bombing off of the coast of Yemen. So shifting into the New World Order and the role that Obama played in the idea of Pax Americana, Obama had shifted us to kind of work as a reaction to the global financial crisis. Obama had also tried to shift us away from the use of brute military force to solve these international problems. And then we started practicing a little bit more patience through the policy of National Security Strategy, or NSS. And then Obama also pushed for the Trans-Pacific Partnership, a pact between the U.S. and then 11 other Pacific Rim countries. Obama heavily supported the North American Free Trade Agreement as well as the World Trade Organization, supporting U.S. trade relations with foreign countries, kind of opening it up all around. New World Orders continued. With Trump kind of differing from Obama in the way that Trump had a little bit more controversial ideologies with his trade policies, he has an American first attitude. So Trump has focused mainly on building from within the U.S. and kind of bringing a lot of businesses back from overseas. He seems to be making the push to make U.S. a world leading in exporting again, as opposed to us currently being the world leader in imports. So the new economic order. Trump had kind of shifted us from making these multi-group trade agreements and kind of disbanded that altogether into working with more one-on-one trade negotiations and deals. NAFTA is also currently being renegotiated with the fear of the U.S. leaving. We could continue our trade agreement with Canada and Mexico. Ultimately, it could kind of go either way with that. But with that, Trump has also sworn off large trade deals during his tour in Asia. That was when he first kind of made that known to the world. So shifting now into security order and how it's kind of changed within the recent years too. With the US focusing on us, we have kind of stepped down as the global police. So we don't really intervene as much in other countries. We are limiting our intervention in other countries. This has kind of had a disadvantage by countries kind of crossing that line that we once previously set. An example of this is the Syrian President Bashar al-Assad using chemical warfare. This sort of line crossing was formerly threatened with U.S. intervention, such as Obama actually threatening Syrian President Bashar al-Assad with U.S. intervention had he used chemical warfare. Now that threat's kind of dissipated a little bit. So ultimately, what this has kind of proved is that Paxes do eventually come to an end. Normally, they had kind of come to an end out of necessity, but the way that this one kind of differs from others is that this was actually the decision of American leaders. So here's my reference, just the Great Decisions book, The Waning of Pax Americana by Carla Norloff. Thank you all very much. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the presentation.